Treasury received 4,000 submissions against the cash ban. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, I'm Florian Heise and welcome to another episode of Heise Says. Once again, non-sponsored but fueled by the power of a Steiner coffee. So let's have a look at this article, or this media release from the CEC. Now, this is to do with the cash ban. I spoke to John Adams yesterday, and they're about to push out another bit of media and a, let's say, cartoon shaming a lot of the coalition Liberal political party members for the, shall we say, draconian and authoritarian / socialist approaches to taking away our rights to spend money. And once he's going to send me an email with a link to that. I will pin that in the comments down here. So guys, he wants people to spread this message, to get it out as far as possible. Let your friends and family know. Get them to call the ministers responsible. Get them to call their local ministers. Apparently there's disruption in the Labour camp. The Nationals aren't happy with this. So you want to have your voice heard. But based on this here, it looks like 10,000 or 4,000 submissions have come in for the cash ban, or in response to the cash ban. Now, if you're not familiar with it, I'd be very surprised, but Treasury released this consultation period, currency restrictions on the use of cash, Bill 2019. And the period was from the 26th of July to the 12th of August, and it was draft legislation. And they still haven't released the submissions. You can see here it's at a glance, the rationale. The introduction of an economy-wide cash payment limit is recommended from the Black Economy Task Force and sends a strong signal to the community that it is not acceptable to avoid tax and other obligations by paying with cash. Now, this is a stitch-up. Frankly, it's a stitch-up. Many people are concerned that it is leading to the potential for negative interest rates. And this is an article from the IMF, a blog post, just looking at how the limitations of monetary policy with regards to current interest rate ceilings, or really basement at 0%, where if they can go further negative, it can pretty much nudge you more to spend. And guys, it's not a conspiracy theory. That is, just where this monetary theory is leading. It's leading. They want to manipulate you to spend to stimulate the economy. That's the hope. Rather than looking at generating real reason to spend, infrastructure spending, and planning things out a bit more, or even just, I would prefer stepping back and kind of looking at a more free market. Because guys, we're not really in a free market. We're not. There's a lot of manipulation. You've got these central banks centrally planning and trying to pull their levers to control the emergent system. Why don't we try for some real freedom? That'd be shocking, wouldn't it? So let's have a read. This was released by the CEC on the 4th of September. So veteran cop pleads, Minister, don't do this to our country. The backlash against Scott Morrison's $10,000 cash ban law is fierce. A Treasury source has revealed that the Black Economy Division received 4,000 plus submissions against the exposure draft of the currency restrictions on the use of cash bill. This is massive. On average, a typical Treasury legislation consultation gets 30 submissions. Over 4,000 submissions is not feedback, it's blowback. So I think, everyone, if you've made your submission, raise your stein of coffee and cheers to you for being part of this expression of, frankly, contempt at the government trying to take away another one of our freedoms. Because that's what it fundamentally is. They want to restrict our ability to spend our own bloody money. They already take a third of your work. A third of the year, you're pretty much working for them as a serf, and they want to restrict how you can spend it. Bloody hell. I better be careful if I get off on another rant. There'll be another music clip made. So the responsible minister, Michael Sukkar, was confronted on 2GB radio by a veteran law enforcement officer who destroyed Sukkar's claim the cash ban is to fight organised crime and appealed, Minister, don't do this to our country. Well, yeah. And politicians have been flooded with protest calls, with feedback confirming that they are getting nervous. Now is the time to increase the calls, especially to National Party MPs who should rebel against their Liberal colleagues on behalf of their farming constituents who rely heavily on cash. So this is the issue in Queensland. We don't have a National Party anymore. We don't actually have a Liberal Party. We have the LNP. They've combined. So will our national members in Parliament here in Queensland, will they have the balls to cross the bench, cross the floor? What do you reckon? So a Treasury cover-up. One of the signs of government nervousness at the backlash is that 3 weeks after submissions close, Treasury still has not posted any submissions or officially reported how many they receive. When asked why the delay, one official let slip that they were inundated with submissions, 4,000 plus. Another official from the Black Economy Division refused to confirm to the CAC how many they received. Amazingly, he also wouldn't guarantee that Treasury would publish the submissions by the time the bill is introduced. If Treasury does not, this would make a joke of the consultation process. I'd bet that it's not an intentional cover-up. I would bet that it's complete and utter incompetence. I mean, this is 100x, more than 100x times the number of submissions they get. Do you reckon they're set up for it? I bet you they get 30 submissions going to an email and they copy and paste it. Can you imagine 4,000 email submissions just managing that without a proper process in place? That is insane. That is insane. That would be a nightmare to go through. So I don't know. I would say Treasury incompetence, frankly. I think it was an embarrassing process. There maybe needs to be an investigation into how Treasury cannot have systems in place to handle this efficiently. That's more concerning. I mean, we're in the 21st century. These type of public consultations, as part of our democratic system, should be completely transparent. Completely. So Sarkar slammed. I feel like I'm reading a character from Dune, but anyway. Assistant Treasurer Michael Sarkar, the minister with carriage of the bill, appeared on the Alex Jones breakfast show on 2GB radio on the 29th of August to defend the cash ban. He claimed that the ban wasn't really about tax evasion in the so-called black economy, but was more about smashing criminal gangs. How? Oh, come on. Yeah, criminal gangs. A $10,000 cash ban is going to have any impact on people that commit crimes all the day. Oh, sorry, I can't buy that heroin that you've smuggled in with cash. I need to transfer it to your account. No one can come on, guys. Can anyone believe that? Seriously. It's just about control and limiting freedom so people get used to it, and then it'll be more and more and more. I mean, come on. People get acclimatized. We're like frogs in the boiling pot. Immediately, a federal law enforcement veteran with 32 years' experience, identified as Richard, called in 2GB and slammed Sarkar's arguments. This is the worst policy decision you can take, Richard stated. He pointed out the government admits well over 90% of businesses follow the law, so the real problem is organized crime. If the government were really serious about combating organized crime, it would enact a US-style RICO, yes, Racketing, Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. But the two major parties don't want to do this because the criminals that would get caught would include some of their own supporters. Yes, that's a really good point. This RICO Act, and I've only learnt about it through the potential risk to, I think, the Catholic Church over in the States, because they're moving people and things around to get out of the all the dodginess that's happening, and this could tear them all apart. So I think I'll do a video on the RICO Act in a bit more detail, but that's a good idea. Just shows you how behind Australia is. In other words, the government would oppose, and opposition are actively protecting organised crime and corruption, whilst law-abiding citizens for using cash. Richard pleaded, "Minister, don't do this to our country." Yeah, no, very good point. So, media coverage. CEC Research Director Robert Barwick was able to call in to Alan Jones after Richard and make the following points. It won't crack down on criminals because criminals won't care if cash is restricted. They're already breaking the law. I don't know, Rob. You sure? They might get scared. I think they might get scared, mate. That can't be right. That can't be right. No. It's not about the black economy, as the vast majority of tax evasion and money laundering is not by individuals, but by banks and multinational corporations. Well, yeah. The person who recommended the cash ban, Black Economy Task Force Chairman Michael Andrew, now deceased, was the global boss of KPMG, when two of its biggest clients, giant British banks HSBC and Standard Chartered, were caught in 2012 in massive money laundering operations. KPMG had audited both banks for years, helping to cover up those crimes. There you go. There you go. So I can, I met Robert. I drove down the Gold Coast with him and John, and I can understand why he's frustrated with all this. Banning cash criminalizes law-abiding citizens. Yes, it does. Who want to use cash for privacy and not to have to use a bank and pay bank charges. Yep. Yeah. You got, every month I'm paying $10 on my business account. What for? What for? The real reason for the ban is to trap Australians in private banks so they can't escape insane policies intended to prop up the banking system at the public's expense, including negative interest rates, charging people to have their money at the bank, and bail-ins confiscating deposits to rescue failing banks. Well, yes, and we've seen bail-ins have happened. So it's a risk. And, they may say it's not going to happen. We're not planning on doing it. Yeah, I'm sure you're not. I'm sure you don't think it'll happen. But it's not this bunch of politicians that I'm worried about. It's 2 generations down. You're laying the foundations for a whole lot of pain in the future. Remember that payroll tax that they instigated for the war? No, not the Gulf War, not the Vietnam War. A few wars back. We still paying it? Yeah, we are. So, come on. We need to... The Libertarian Party's approach for the half-life on legislation needs to be put in. Half-life on taxes needs to be put in. Alan Jones agreed that the biggest problem with tax avoidance is multinationals. He told Barwick the points he made had tremendous merit and were more than valid. That Sunday, Barwick was invited onto GGB's George and Paul morning program to elaborate on the cash ban. George and Paul already understood that the ulterior motive for the cash ban was trapping bank customers in negative interest rates and bail-in. Thank you very much for the work you've done with the Citizens Electoral Council, George said. Thank you for waving the flag and ringing the bell very loudly. So the Libertarian Leaning Institute of Public Affairs also spoke up more forcefully against the ban. Kurt Wallace's article, "Ban on Cash is an Attack on Our Freedoms," was posted on both the IPA website and Sky News Australia. As well as with all intrusions on privacy, it is argued that if you've done nothing wrong, you've got nothing to hide, Wallace wrote. Yeah, famous last words, isn't it? But this implies the government must be privy to every private transaction regardless of wrongdoing or even suspected illegal behaviour. This line of argument doesn't stop at banning $10,000 cash, but to a full-blown surveillance state, the likes of which you might read about in a dystopian novel. I think we're already heading there. I think we're heading there more than people realise. The 31st of August Australian attacked the cash ban in draconian cash bills, treat us all as tax-dodging criminals. Paywall, okay, you got to pay for it. By Katrina Grace Kelly. You may think that people have nothing to hide, have nothing to worry about with this bill, but that's not the point, Kelly wrote. Once it is passed, it is all over for the people in the country in terms of freedom and liberty. We are all on the cusp of an unprecedented move into a situation where the state has an unreasonable amount of control over the citizens. Just imagine, too, how other governments will tighten this noose. A $10,000 limit today means a smaller limit tomorrow. The boffins who created the bill wanted a limit of $2,000, so the writing is on the wall. Yes, yeah. Look at Europe. Look at Europe, where you can't even spend €1,000 on cash in certain countries. $1,000 isn't that much, guys. Seriously. What can you get for $1,000? I've been watching all these shows. I started off with Till Death Do Us Part. There's a Canadian nanny going on and helping couples. And then Can't Pay, We'll Take It Away. A UK show with high court enforcement, debt collectors kicking people out of their houses. Then a bounty hunter in South America getting people. And now, I don't know, I've been going down this YouTube rabbit hole. Now it's all about people on welfare, all in the UK, all the perks they're getting. And I mean, the one thing I take from that show is just how much unemployment there is over there. It's terrible. It's terrible. So, and in those shows, I'm seeing where a car is like €1,000, €1,500. So you can't even buy a cheap second-hand car anymore over there. Or in the UK you can, but in other countries. So, what can you do? Call, and call again. The best thing people can do is call their MP and senators in their state. And Scott Morrison, Anthony Albanese, and Josh Frydenberg, especially call National Party MPs to demand they revolt against this law. For ideas of what to say, use the points that Robert Barwick made to Alan Jones above. So, good work. The CEC is really taking the lead to get exposure to this issue, and we'll see if we get the submissions released. I don't think it's a cover-up, at least I hope it's not a cover-up. I'm leaning more towards incompetence. I think the government are brilliant at incompetence. I think they're brilliant at mismanaging everything. So the more we can take away from the government, the better. The better for everyone involved. And this is a thing we need to fight. This is a thing we need to stop. Because they're gonna bugger it up. Just wait till an innocent grandmother goes to jail for spending $10,000. Just wait for that in the media if this gets through. It'll be on a current affair or something. Just wait. So we've got to continue speaking up about this. I'll pin to the media that John is releasing. He's done, I think, a video on the interests of the people. It probably is already out by the time you see this one. But if any of you watch it and find the link, put it in the comments and I'll pin it. And yeah, let me know what you think, guys. Like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you all later. Bye for now.